It may be winter still, but with spring around the corner, many families have already started planning their vacations for the coming summer months. One of our family's favorite things to do is go on an old-fashioned family road trip. And this past summer, after years of planning and saving, our family of 6 set off on what we had come to call our East Coast road trip. Originally, the plan had been to do the eastern seaboard, from the shores of Nova Scotia on the east coast of Canada, all the way down to Charleston, South Carolina, and back up again. However, after much thought and a number of changes over those years, we decided instead to divide the trip up into 2 parts. One year taking 2 weeks to do the upper East Coast, and another taking 2 to do the lower. In hindsight, this was a huge blessing, as trying to do all we had originally planned in those 2 weeks would have just been too much. The first leg of our trip would take us from Nova Scotia to the White Mountains of New Hampshire, hopefully before the sun set. The plan was to take the boys to see Diana's bass, a place we had found on our honeymoon nearly 18 years ago. These natural bass are an easy hike in, and was the perfect place for everyone to stretch their legs and climb around. The gentle falls have worn the rocks smooth and made natural slides, and after a chilly dip, we made our way to our little cabin for the night. It would be an early morning so that we could spend a good part of the next day exploring Vermont before crossing into Montreal that evening. We arrived in Cottage, Vermont by mid-morning, and I had 15 minutes to fly through their antique mall. This is something I've grown used to. No one wants to sit and wait around for 2 hours while I browse, but you'd be surprised what I can cover when they graciously give me 15 minutes. From here, we made our way to Woodstock, Vermont, a town that has been on my wish list for a number of years. Along the Cottage Gorge, in a historic brick building, is the PEARCE Glass Museum. Upstairs, you can browse their gorgeous hand-blown glassware in their shop. But downstairs, you can watch the artists as they actually blow the glass. It's such an interesting art to watch. I wasn't sure if the boys would be terribly interested in it, but I really wanted to see it again. I should have known that anything involving large tools and molten glass would have kept them entertained. The town of Woodstock is probably the closest to a real-life Stars Hollow. It's a quintessential small town. Quaint, covered bridges, the old general store F.H. Gillingham & Sons from 1886, the Grand Woodstock Inn. It's a town that is perfect to wander about. I would love to return again in the autumn, as I feel like that's a season perfectly suited to this town. While I popped into the shops, the boys hung out at the local park for a bit. From here, we made our way out of town and stopped at Farmhouse Pottery on the way to Burlington, Vermont. The Farmhouse Pottery pieces are handmade in their studio, which you can tour when you visit the shop. The aesthetic of the shop was so appealing to me. It's clean and simple, classic traditional ceramics in earthy tones, hand-dipped candles, and pretty kitchen accessories. The artists working in the studio were so kind and encouraged us to come and watch the process. While I took my time browsing, the guys watched one make a match striker, from throwing the clay to the finished piece ready for glazing. Again, it was another stop that was more for me, but it ended up being unexpectedly enjoyable for them too. From here, we enjoyed driving through a few other small towns as we made our way up towards the Montreal border. Stowe, Montpelier, those were a few of our favorites. But we didn't stop much as we had enjoyed a relaxing morning. This helped make a day with a significant number of hours in the car less daunting. When you drive for a bit, stop, drive some more, stop again, the drive doesn't feel all that long. We made it to Lake Champlain just as the sun had set. It's a beautiful little spot, somewhere we had read a lot about, and enjoyed seeing it in person. It was just a few hours further and we'd cross back into Canada and stop for the night. Before we moved to the East Coast, having come from Ontario, we made a number of trips up north each summer as a family. But since moving east, it's now 21 hours away and just not as doable as often. My husband's parents joined us, which made it all the more special of a time. It's the perfect place to escape. It's on a quiet lake in a bay, making it quite peaceful. We spent our days swimming and then sunning on the dock, paddling, playing cornhole, and sitting by the fire. When the weather was cool, we read and did puzzles, and just enjoyed the time together. It was hard to leave, but we were also really looking forward to the next part of our trip. On the way home, we passed through the Muskokas, which is cottage country just outside of Toronto. There's a lovely home decor store there that I really wanted to see again, simply Cottage. I didn't regret the slight detour. They have a gorgeous new location that's just full of inspiration. They have an in-house design firm, and the shop aesthetic is sort of pottery barn meets cottage country with some antiques thrown in for character. I picked up a small hostess gift for friends we'd be meeting for dessert later. I was also pleasantly surprised that they had recently opened up a sister shop around the corner, Cottage Country Vintage, that was specifically antique and vintage finds. It was another lovely surprise. Everything was so well curated and then beautifully displayed. One more stop was required, a tradition for many families when making the trip to the cottage. A stop at Weber's Grill for a flame-grilled burger. It's kind of a tradition in the area, and it's a really great place to stop. From here, we drove the 6 hours back to Niagara, where we were originally from. We stayed at his parents' place, which was nice. They've got a lovely home in town, but it's so well established, it always feels like a bit of a sanctuary. I love walking around the gardens and seeing how things have evolved over the years. It's also just nice to see our younger boys enjoying their grandparents' home. It's not always easy being far away. Before spending the morning visiting with each of our grandparents, we all went out for breakfast together, a Saturday morning tradition we used to do all the time when we were close. The boys also loved this, as it's something we never do anymore. We made a quick stop at my aunt's, who has recently built and decorated a new home. It was as beautiful as I expected. She has such a classic, traditional style, but this house is even more clean and simple than her previous, and I loved it all. Proof that with the right finishes, a new build can still have lots of character. And I love that she chose a few pieces from Simply Cottage. No trip to Niagara is complete without quickly popping into 13th Street Winery. They have the Farmhouse Bakery, where they make the most delicious butter tarts. It's a beautiful estate, but we were there for one thing only, the butter tarts. They are, in my opinion, unlike any other. After visits with our grandmothers, another thing we were so thankful to have the opportunity to do, we made our way to Toronto. The Niagara region is about an hour and a half outside of the city. It just so happened that our youth group trip coincided with our being there, so our eldest was able to meet up with everyone and enjoy the weekend in the city doing their outreach. We took the scenic way up to pick him up and stopped at best friends of ours on our way back home. A few hours is never enough time to catch up, but lifelong friends are such a blessing. Road trips as a family are maybe not the easiest, especially with a larger family. But for us, it's a great way to see and explore new places while not having a large budget for traveling. Usually, our road trips leave us packed like sardines in a hotel room, never overly luxurious and always one that offers a free continental breakfast, bonus if it has a pool. They also require hours of planning in order to ensure we've made the most of our time away and kept things as stress-free as possible. But planning trips is actually something we love to do, so we don't mind. I think that what made this particular trip so amazing was that we tried to pick a few things that we each wanted to do or see, instead of trying to do everything. Museum tickets, gallery passes, landmark admissions add up very quickly, as does eating every meal out. Finding ways to see things without spending a lot of money, save a few highlights, and limiting our meals out to one a day, which is easy to do with a large hotel breakfast and lots of healthy snacks for the road, meant that we could do all that we wanted to do without the burden of coming home to a massive debt. The following morning, we were heading out, crossing in Niagara Falls and driving straight across to New York City. It was early in the morning, and it seemed like we had the falls to ourselves. We slowly drove along the parkway and then made our way back into the United States, hoping to see the city skyline before dark. Next week, part 2 of our East Coast road trip, New York City.